Hi guys, Debbie here. Welcome to my channel, welcome back. So today's video is going to be the eyeshadow palette tag. This was created by Samantha and Allie Glines. I'll link their videos in my description box. Do urge you to go and check those out. They're really interesting videos. I love this tag because anything to do with eyeshadow palettes, I'm here for it. And I know you guys are too, so it'd be a fun one to film. And I think as well that I've got a lot of different kind of palettes to a lot of the people that have done this previously. So I think it could be a fun one for you guys to see. So without further ado, we'll kick off. And the questions are basically based on a TikTok video that was going around. Show your newest palette, show your smallest palette, etc. So we're going to go through that. If you haven't seen the tag, I just wanted to just make you aware of what it was all about. But we're going to go through those. I've got them on my phone just so I don't forget which one's next because I'm terrible at this. I'm not going to number the questions because I always miss the numbers. So here we go. So show your newest palette. Well, I'm wearing it on my eyes right now and it is the Prodigy palette by Sample Beauty. And yeah, I only bought this one on Wednesday, so this is definitely the newest one in my collection. Today is Sunday that I'm filming this. And that's the shades inside that one. So dual tone grungy with a little bit of duochromeness thrown in the mix and really enjoying it so far. Okay, next up, show your oldest palette. Oh, well, anybody that's been around here for a while will know that I don't declutter anything. So I've got some really ancient palettes in my collection, really old. I think this one is the oldest. It had to be an Urban Decay palette because they were the first brand that got me into makeup. And I think it's this one, and I don't even know what its name is. It's like a shadow box thing. It's got like a gunmetal front to it. I wouldn't use it now because I think it's probably 12, 13 years old, probably even more. But it came with some sponge applicators in the box. It was all shimmers. There's some really pretty coloured shimmers in here actually. I used to adore this when I got it. Like I've hit pan on the more neutral shades because I was more of a neutral girl in those days. But yeah, that one's definitely my oldest palette. As I say, probably one of the oldest ones that you'll probably see if you watch any of these tags, I would guess. I don't think many people have kept a palette around for that long. Okay, show your most expensive palette. That one was a difficult one for me because I don't really have anything mega expensive. I've got no Pat McGrath, I've got no Natasha Denona. And then I thought, well, I don't know if this is cheating, but it is a palette, but I created it and it's my Sugar Pill Pro palette and there's only 6 shades in this palette, but each of them were £12 each, and then the palette that it comes in like this, you have to buy as well, and I think that was £8. So we're looking at £80 for these 6 shades, so I'd say that's pretty expensive. And I've got 3 of these, but this is what I'm going to show you. So I kind of mix and match all the shades around, but I put this one together to do a Christmas look last Christmas. So still got the same shades in there. Has one of my favourite shadows of all time, Love Plus, in there, and a brilliant white that's called Taco. So no regrets, brilliant formula, love Sugar Pill. But yeah, £80 for 6 shades in a cardboard palette is quite expensive, but as I say, I use these more than probably a lot of other shadows in my collection, so I'm still happy that I have them. You have to excuse me if the light's getting really light in here. It's a sunny day in the UK, which is, you've got to enjoy that. You've got to make the most of it. I'm not going to shut the curtains and make it all dark, so might suddenly get the sun coming on my face and then it might go again, but we'll keep going. So the next question is show your most affordable palette. And one extreme to the other. This one is a Revolution palette and this was £4. This one is a reloaded one. It's called the Deep Dive. It's got the worst horrible packaging, but it's actually not too bad. The palette itself, the colours are beautiful. I did a first impressions with the palette. I don't think I've used it since though, because when something's in this kind of packaging, it doesn't attract me to want to dig it out of my collection. But there's some interesting colours in here. This purpley colour is really unique to my collection, and yeah, it's not nearly as bad as I expected that it might be, but for £4, what can you expect? And it's pretty good for £4, I have to say. Show your everyday palette. Well, I don't know how to interpret this question. Do they mean everyday as in what you would wear to work, or, I mean, I don't have an everyday palette. I wear colours like this on the daily, so it's difficult for me, but my kind of go-to if I was to only be able to keep one palette and be able to do quite a lot of the looks that I like to do would be this one. Don't think this will be any surprise to anyone that's followed me for a while. The So Sue by Suzanne Jackson Urban Bible palette, and I just absolutely adore this palette. It's got the neutrals in it, but it's got some really beautiful pops as well. So you've got all this neutral side, you've got some nice shimmers, you've got some bright shimmers and then some pops of colour, you've got a white and a black. So for every day it's got all bases covered without being mega colourful, or if you're a colourful lover of eyeshadow like me, it's not too colourful anyway. So I would call this an everyday palette. Hey, show your most colourful palette. Well, all of my palettes pretty much are colourful. I do have some neutrals, but the majority of my palettes are colourful. So there was a number of options I could choose, but when I think of colour, this is the palette that I think of. This one is the most colourful palette I own, I think. And it's just a rainbow of colours, and it's this one, the Jawbreaker by Jeffree Star. And it's got everything colourful from your pastels to your vivid brights and everything in between. So I think this is probably my most colourful, but as I say, I've got a number of colourful palettes in my collection, so I could have chosen any number of them, but I think this is my favourite colourful palette probably. There's one or two. I like the Stacey Marie and Be Perfect colourful palette as well, but I think this one's a lot brighter and more colourful. Show your smallest palette. I don't have anything really tiny, or I didn't think I did, and then I started hunting through my collection and I do have something fairly small, and it's this one, which is by NARS. It's the Provocateur palette. It was a limited edition 2 Christmases ago, so 2018 Christmas, and it's a Goth Lover's Dream, this one. I love this palette. I need to do a tutorial using this and show you guys just how amazing it is. I don't think NARS get the kudos they deserve for some of their colour stories, because this one's just something a little bit unique and it's really special, and for only having 6 shades you can make quite a lot of grungy goth dark kind of looks that I love to rock. So one of my favourites in my collection, but got it before I started my channel, so I've never done a video on it. But if you'd like to see that, let me know in the comments, because I'd love to do it. Okay, show your biggest palette. Well, can you guess which brand might have my biggest palette? I don't think it's any surprise to anyone which brand this would be, because they're known for their big palettes. It's a Morphe one, of course. Look how big it is. Can't get it in shot. But yeah, it's the Morphe 39A. It's actually not a bad palette. I like this palette. That's the colours inside. I love it because it's like a fall autumn kind of colour story. You've got some beautiful grungy greens and you've got some deep blues as well. Don't really care for the middle row, all the transition shades, because you only need, you know, one transition shade and all the others are kind of wasted for me. They're kind of catering to everybody that might want a transition shade with those browns in the middle. But that shade's really, really good. That metallic there, that orangey red. I've made some really nice looks with this just in my own time as such. So no, I really do like this palette, and it's a lot better than I thought the Morphe quality would be. It's one of the better Morphe palettes. Okay, show your palette with the best memory. Well, what else could I choose but this one? So if you've been around for a while, you will have seen the video to this, and if you haven't, I really recommend that you do if you want to have a laugh and see me struggle with something. But it just makes me smile every time I look at it, and it's this one. It's the Magic by Juvia's. So what's the memory around this one then? So myself and 2 of my friends here on YouTube, Annette's Makeup Corner and Lisa Lobotomy, did a collab, and it was my first ever collab. I was mega nervous to do it because they're seasoned YouTubers, been doing it for a long time, and you know, they got their technique for doing this kind of thing down. I was like, I'm never going to compete. I know it's not a competition, but you know, I was just like so nervous, and I thought, they've got a big following than me. I was super tiny. I mean, I'm not huge now, but I had like maybe 50 subscribers at that point, or 100. So I was like, there's a potential for lots of people to see this. And it was a face-off where we chose at random 5 shades, and Annette chose the shades, and we got all shimmers. So we collectively agreed, we were having a chat on Instagram, that we would choose one more colour, and we got another shimmer. So not only did I have to do my first collab feeling a little bit nervous, but I had to make an eye look with 6 shimmers and no mattes. and it just makes me smile every time I think about it. But that's the palette if you're not aware of it, and it is really, really beautiful. I think I've used it once since then though. It kind of scarred me for life, but it'll always hold a special place in my heart because it was just so lovely to be able to do a collab with two people that have become some of my greatest friends, not just on YouTube but anywhere, and just, you know, to remember that memory is just super special to me. Next up, it's show a palette that's worth the hype. So this palette was super hyped in its day, and I think it definitely deserved it. And you might be a little bit surprised about which one I choose here because it's not a typical Debbie palette, I don't think. It's not mega colourful, but definitely deserves its place as you know, deserving the hype for sure. It's the Desi and Katie Frinkation palette by Dose of Colours. First of all, just look at that packaging, it's stunning. But there was so much hype around it at the time and quite difficult to get hold of it. It was sold out quite a lot at the time. But the shades inside, it's a neutral palette. It's going to reflect awful off my lights, I think. But why is it worth the hype then? Well, it's the Block Party shadows. So all of these shimmers are their Block Party formula, which is, it's got kind of a dark base, or particularly to these colours, but super kind of reflective and multi-dimensional. And then you've got the most buttery gorgeous mattes in here as well. You can make some really gorgeous neutral kind of work appropriate looks, or even date night romantic looks with this palette. But you can do a smoky eye, you can do a look with that blue or the gold that are just a little bit special, do you know what I mean? And yeah, definitely worth the hype. I thought I might be disappointed because so many people had hyped it up, but absolutely not. And I still love this palette. Had it for, well, since it came out, it's probably about 2 years old, still love it. Okay, a palette that's not worth the hype then. Well, this is a palette that I wanted so much, and it had 2 releases. It came out, it was limited edition for quite a long time, and you just couldn't get it anywhere in the UK. And it was the time when I just started watching a lot of YouTube, so probably about 3 to 4 years ago. And it's all people talked about, and they were on the train of this particular theme as well. And it's the Too Faced Sweet Peach palette. And then I got it for a birthday present from my husband, and I've used it 3 or 4 times, but I'm really disappointed in it. I just don't understand why everyone was so excited about it. This is it. It's really not exciting, and I don't think the quality's that great on it. Like, I've got the Gingerbread Spice palette, that's way better than this one. The shimmers are lackluster, the mattes are just okay, the tin packaging is lovely, but the scent really puts me off. It's ultra strong but kind of chemically peach. It's just not great. And maybe I should force myself to use this just to see if I can get a half decent look out of it. But I didn't think there was good pigmentation in the dark shades. There's too many light shades that are all the same. It's definitely not worth the hype, and I don't know why everyone loved it so much. So if this is one of your favourite palettes, then I'm so sorry, but I just don't like it that much at all. Okay, show a favourite palette from a favourite brand. Well, this was difficult because I've got a lot of favourite brands, and they're mostly indie brands. So there were so many I could have chosen, but when I think of a palette that's a favourite that I would never want to part with and that I was so excited to get, it's got to be this one. So I'm talking about Menagerie Cosmetics Feral palette. This was the first time I ordered a palette from the US, and that was a big thing for me to do because of the shipping and customs. I said I would never do it, but I saw this on Instagram. They were doing a bit of a like share the post for a giveaway for it. I just so wanted to win it, and when I didn't, I just knew I had to have it. Like the artwork on it, just that is enough to give it a place in my heart because I'm such a packaging person. I don't think they've ever surpassed the artwork on this one, and they do beautiful artwork on all their palettes, but this one just had something so special about it. And then I got it in the second wave of palettes because they did have a couple of neutral shades here, and the brand listened to their customers and swapped those out. So people that ordered it after a certain time got it with the Wolfling shade and what's that one called? Harmonia. I can't remember the name of that one. Haven't used it nearly enough, but I absolutely adore the colour story. So I love greens, I love purples, I love a red and a yellow. You know, it's just stunning. Need to use it way more. I have used it a couple of times on my channel. If I can find the videos, I'll link those. But yeah, this is One of my absolute favourite brands is Menagerie, and this is my favourite palette from the brand, I think. But I don't know, from day to day I could change my mind because they're all so good, really. Okay, last but not least, show your most used palette. So I didn't know if this means most used right now or most used ever, or I'm kind of taking it to be the one that I've hit the most pan on, and that's something I never do anymore because I've got 200, I think, eyeshadow palettes now. I filmed an eyeshadow palette collection video and that was about 3 months ago and I had 180, so I think probably must have topped the 200 by now because that's what I do. I spend all my money on eyeshadow palettes. So, but the one I'm going to show you is the one that I've got the most major pan in pretty much of any palette I've ever owned. And I do own a new nice clean version of this as well, but this is the original Naked by Urban Decay. And when they were doing away with this palette, they held a little funeral for the palette actually. It's like in all of the advertisements for the palette kind of being decommissioned, that's what they'd done. And I was so sad to see it go because this could easily have been in my memory category, best memory for a palette, because I bought this one when it came out and had very limited makeup skills then. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm amazing now, I'm not a makeup artist, but I think my confidence with colour has definitely grown. But at the time I bought this palette, everything I wore was neutral, and I'd bought some of the shadow boxes by Urban Decay and I'd played a little bit with the neutrals in those, but never dared to use the colours. And then when this came out with smoky sort of greys in it and neutrals that were kind of a little bit sparkly, it spoke to me. But why it had such good memories, it's my clubbing kind of time. So in my late 30s, early 40s, I had a bit of a crazy time in my life where I just went out every weekend getting drunk and having a good time. It was a sad time because I'd lost my dad and I kind of reacted to that by going out and kind of reliving my youth. But I have so many good memories from that time, although it was a tragic time, getting ready, like around my friend's house, putting this makeup on, using this palette. And I used it as my everyday palette as well, so I'd smoke it out if it was going to be like for a night out, and I'd use it a lot more neutral for day, and I literally used the hell out of it. But this is it. You don't see major pan like this on palettes from me anymore, but you can see the shades that I like the best. I always like the shimmery shades, never really use mattes very much. I used to just put a shimmer on my lids and go pretty much. But I bought a brand new one, as I say, which I've never touched because I couldn't bear to be without this palette, and I wouldn't use this one now because it's way too old. But I would say that's my most used ever in my collection. This was such a fun one to do. I hope you enjoyed watching it. I love talking about eyeshadow palettes. It's literally my favourite thing to do in the world. So I wasn't going to miss up the chance of filming this tag. Such a great tag. As I say, if you haven't seen Samantha March's or Allie Glines videos, I'll link those below. There's been a host of other people that have done it as well. So, you know, I think you'll fall down a rabbit hole of watching them. And I think we've all got different makeup tastes and different answers to this, and I'd like to think that mine are completely different to a lot that I've seen as well. So as I say, hope you've enjoyed it. If you're new to my channel and you're not subscribed, then I'd love to have you. But other than that, guys, all that remains to be said is I hope you're having a lovely day or night. Keep safe and well, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye, guys.